That's what the souls want. They don't want Krishna, they want opulence. That's all they want. That's what they get. Jai Ram, Rama Rama, Punjabi Hari. Gopi Janavallabha, Girivarnari. Yasodhanandana Braja Janarandana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jai Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari. Jai Radha Punjabi Hari, Radha Punjabi Hari, Hari. Jai Radha Punjabi Hari, Radha Punjabi Hari, Hari. Hari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Jaya Radha Punjabi Hari, Radha Punjabi Hari, Hari. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladev, Mai Subhadra. Jaya Shrimadbhagavatam, Jaya Bhagopal, Jaya Shrimadbhagavatam, Jaya Giri Govardhan. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Jaya Jai Om Vishnupada, Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya, Astotra Satyashishimad, His Divine Grace, founder of ISKCON Abhay Charnadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Grantara Shrimadbhagavatam ki. Their most merciful Lordship Shri Shrimadakani Javiari ki. Shri Jagannath Shri Baladev Maya Subhadra ki. Shri Nataji Shri Balagopal ki. Shri Gornitai ki. Nitai Go Prem. All glories to the assembly. All glories to the assembly. All glories to the assembly. All glories to the lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraya Nasta Prayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhagavati Naistiki. Reading from Shrimadbhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 7, Text 21. 22. Text 22. Arjun Uvacha. Arjun Uvacha. 23. Oh, okay, very good. Tyam Adya Purusha Saksad. Twam Adya Purusha Saksad Ishvara Prakrite Paraha. Ishvara Prakrite Paraha. Mayam Vyudasya Chikchaktya. Mayam Vyudasya Chikchaktya. Kaivalye Shtita Atmani. Kaivalye Shtita Atmani. Tvam Adya Purusha Saksad Ishvara Prakrite Pare. Sorry. Ishvara Prakrite Para. Mayam Jadusya Chikchaktya. Kaivalye Shtita Atmani. Tvam Adya Purusha Sakshad Ishvara Prakrite Para. Mayam Vyudasya Chikchaktya. Kaivalye Sthita Atmani. Please chant. Tvam Adya Purusha Saksad Ishvara Prakrite Para. Mayam Vyudasya Chikchaktya. Kaivalye Sthita Atmani. Anyone else? Tvam Adya. You are the original. Purusha, the enjoying personality. Saksat, directly. Ishvara, the controller. Prakrite, of material nature. Para, transcendental. Maya, the material energy. Vyudasya, one who has thrown aside. Chitchaktya, by dint of internal potency. Kaivalye, in pure eternal knowledge and bliss. Sthita, placed. Atmani, own self. Tvam adya purusha sakshat ishvara prakrite para mayam yudasya tikchaktya kaivalye sthita atmani. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace by Charnaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. You are the original personality of Godhead, who expands Himself all over the creations and is transcendental to material energy. You have cast away the effects of the material energy by dint of your spiritual potency. You are always situated in eternal bliss and transcendental knowledge. Please repeat. You are the original personality of Godhead. You are the original personality of Godhead. Who expands Himself. All over the creations. And is transcendental. To material energy. You have cast away the effects of the material energy by dint of your spiritual potency. You are always situated in eternal bliss and transcendental knowledge. You are the original personality of Godhead who expands Himself all over the creations and is transcendental to material energy. You have cast away the effects of the material energy by dint of your spiritual potency. You are always situated in eternal bliss and transcendental knowledge. Purport by His Divine Grace by Charnaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The Lord states in the Bhagavad Gita that one who surrenders unto the lotus feet of the Lord can get release from the clutches of nescience. Krishna is just like the sun, and Maya, or material existence, is just like darkness. Wherever there is light of the sun, darkness or ignorance at once vanishes. The best means to get out of the world of ignorance is suggested here. The Lord is addressed herein as the original personality of Godhead. From Him, all other personalities of Godhead expand. The all-pervasive Lord Vishnu is Lord Krishna's plenary portion or expansion. The Lord expands Himself in innumerable forms of Godhead and living beings along with His different energies. But Sri Krishna is the original primeval Lord, from whom everything emanates. The all-pervasive feature of the Lord experienced within the manifested world is also a partial representation of the Lord. Paramatma, therefore, is included within Him. He is the absolute personality of Godhead. He has nothing to do with the actions and reactions of the material manifestation, because He is far above the material creation. Darkness is a perverse representation of the sun, and therefore the existence of darkness depends on the existence of the sun. But in the sun proper, there is no trace of darkness. As the sun is full of light only, similarly, the absolute personality of Godhead, beyond the material existence, is full of bliss. He's not only full of bliss, but also full of transcendental variegatedness. The transcendence is not at all static, but full of dynamic variegatedness. He is distinct from the material nature, which is complicated by the three modes of material nature. He is Parama, or the chief, Therefore, he is absolute. He has manifold energies, and through his diverse energies, he creates, manifests, maintains, and destroys the material world. In his own abode, however, everything is eternal and absolute. The world is not conducted by the energies or powerful agents by themselves, but by the potent, all-powerful, with all energies. Om Jnana Timirandasya Shalakaya Chakshusum Naditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. This Paraha, or is it now? Prakriti Ishvara Sakshatra. Para. This para, meaning transcendental. There's a term in the English language called pariah, right? A pariah is like an outcast. This word para, if you're a transcendentalist in the material world, you're kind of like an outcast. Because for the most part, people in the material world are in the material world to try and enjoy the material world. That's what they're there for. And so we can see that those who are on the transcendental path, trying to wake up the souls who are on the material path, they are looked at as outcasts or out of the ordinary. I want to read to you from the 5th canto about this dwelling. If we become so overwhelmed with the desire to enjoy the things of this material world, Krishna gives us just that, without him even. So this particular portion of Bhagavatam in the 5th canto, chapter 24, is describing the various levels of the planetary system, and it's going into detail about the hellish planets as well. Beneath Mahatala is the planetary system known as Rasatala, which is the abode of the demonic Jai Shishiyarakanjali Jai Jagannath Jai Baladev Mahesabhadra Jai Shishigornika, which is the abode of the demonic sons of Diti and Danu. They are called Panis, Nivata Kavachas, Kalayas, and Hiranyapuravasis, those living in Hiranyapura. They are all enemies of the demigods, and they reside in holes like snakes. From birth, they are extremely powerful and cruel. Although they are proud of their strength, they are always defeated by the Sudarshan Chakra of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who rules all the planetary systems. When a female messenger from Indra, named Sarama, chants a particular curse, the serpentine demons of Mahatala become very afraid of Indra. Here we go again. I'm looking for that same thing. I just saw it yesterday, and it was just the verse I had just read. Beneath the planet known as Sutala is another planet called Talatala, which is ruled by a Danava demon named Maya. Maya is known as the Acharya, master of all the Mayavis, who can invoke the powers of sorcery. For the benefit of the three worlds, Lord Shiva, who is known as Tripurari, once set fire to the three kingdoms of Maya, but later, being pleased with him, he returned his kingdom. Since that time, Maya Danava has been protected by Lord Shiva, and therefore he falsely thinks that he need not fear the Sudarshan Chakra of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Going to find it. Krishna. I just read it, and this is the marker where I want. It disappears for some reason every time I want to find it. But see, okay, I'll find it again. I'll read it tomorrow. But it is such that it's like a warning that we have to realize in our minds what the attachment to all the physical things in this material world can do to us. Because it is by desire that we can gain pure love of God, and that the desire manifests itself in how we are situated in our service to Krishna, in our service in our life. So if we're not very careful, we can become so attracted to the things in this material world that they can lead us to a place where that is the experience that all the inhabitants have, to the extent that they're so covered over with material opulence, they have no place in their consciousness for the idea or concept of God. And so, see, we see today amongst many preachers, especially since television of 40, 50 years ago, and then of late now the internet has made it popular for so-called preachers to become popular in the eyes of many people and to become famous, and for them to also become very wealthy. And so seeing this as a path that people are choosing, we have to be aware of what the end result of these choices that people are making in their lives will bring to them. Dave was telling me yesterday, he had an opportunity, someone came yesterday to the feast who is still taking part in the group of people called Jehovah's Witnesses. And he's telling me that they have the belief that the earth is eternal. This may seem like an innocent kind of a thought to hold in our minds, because we say the earth is the Lord's, right? But it's the same perspective these souls have of their dwelling that's spoken of in the hellish planets. They think their dwelling is eternal too. And so, if we're not careful, we will manifest this desire for the material experience to be that which we put foremost in our minds as above and beyond that which Krishna is calling us to come to. When we surrender to Krishna, we surrender unconditionally. That is, Krishna, whatever you're going to put me through now, I'm trusting that by your grace, by your mercy, you will give me the ability to perform the functions that I have to perform in this material world. But we don't put conditions upon Krishna. Okay, I'll do it if. I'll do your service if this thing is right and if that thing is the way I want it to be and like that. This is not unconditional. This is conditional. So in effect, we put ourselves in the place of God when we do that. We are saying to Krishna, I like the process you gave us, but I want it with a little more of my own added to it. So we have to be very careful that we don't add our own to it. And what it is, with the perspective that the earth is eternal, I don't know any statement in the Bible, which is what they go by also, the Bible. It says that the earth itself is eternal. So it has to be concluded that a person who makes that statement based on what the Bible says, they would be going upon their own mental speculation. maybe even reasoned that, well, the Lord created the earth, and the Lord is eternal, so everything that comes from the Lord is eternal. But what comes from the Lord is the souls, are the souls. And from those souls, then, Krishna gives the potency to be able to manifest the material universes. Ultimately, it's all coming from Krishna. But Krishna has nothing to do with the material energy, while simultaneously he's visiting, coming here to give relief to the living entities. But the reason he has to come is because we've wandered away from home. And we've entered into that state of consciousness which has caused us to be removed from that eternal dwelling we were once in. So this reveals to us the significance and the power of consciousness that we develop while we perform our service also. Because coming to Krishna consciousness and surrendering is the beginning. Then as we engage in devotional service day after day, we don't see our position as the end of all. Because the position itself that we're being given in devotional service, the quality of it, it is eternal. But there is nothing in this world that is of the same substance of eternity. Although Dhruva was given a planet which is actually eternal. So that was given to him by his consciousness and the way that he took to the principles given to him by his guru, Narad Muni. So we can take to these principles wholeheartedly with great enthusiasm and in such a way please Krishna to the extent that he will make the impossible possible for us. Before Dhruva Maharaj had this place in the universe, there was no Dhruva Loka. And so it would seem that Krishna, out of his own divine love for the soul Prahlad, showing at such a young age the kind of devotion Prahlad showed, going out into the forest, and, I'm sorry, not Prahlad, Dhruva Maharaj, going out into the forest, meditating, exactly as his guru had told him, even though Narad Muni had told him that as a boy, as a young child, it wasn't required of him. But we can see sometimes if our devotional service is not complete, Krishna lets us complete it by allowing us to be born into a place where we will become so completely removed from the material energy that it won't even be a distraction for us. And as we apply the teachings of Krishna consciousness to our lives, we can here and now be also put into that situation, far removed from desires for material sense gratification. And this is what real renunciation is. Because we're not giving anything up. We're just taking the proper perspective towards everything, realizing that none of this is ours. Nothing in this world is mine. Everything that's in this world will be here when I leave, except the soul that I am. But other than that, everything material remains in the material realm. So how can anybody claim anything to be theirs? Every possession that any human being can consider theirs to own is only lent to them for a short period of time. And so if we use all these things in Krishna's service, they will be brought to their full utility. Srila Prabhupada says utility is the principle. It's not that we don't use these things, but we have access to all of it, recognizing that it's Krishna's. Because it's Krishna's service. It's Krishna's purpose. All these things are here for us to use. And when looked at properly then, all these things get used, and that which we use which has life. Every seed has life. Every fruit comes from the soul giving it life. So then life is recognized for what it really is, not concocted to be something that it's not. So the devotee knows to be able to distinguish between that which is spiritual and that which is material. If we're being offered the greatest treasure there is, and we turn away from that and choose rather for broken glass and particles of this world that have no value whatsoever. In the spiritual world, the value of everything cannot even be compared to that which is here in the material world. Even the little tiniest, small little trinket that might be available in the spiritual world would have the value greater than anything in this material universe besides that which Dhruva Loka is. So that which we are desiring in this material world is that which will lead us to the suffering and pangs over and over and over and over and over again. So this chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, which Lord Chaitanya is explaining is the only means by which we can free ourselves from these desires, because it replaces with that provided by the material energy, with that provided by the spiritual energy, which is eternal, Krishna. So we can experience the eternal by the chanting. And that's how we can know the difference between the results of the material energy and the spiritual energy. The happiness we gain, the experience of purification, the experience of realization, the experience of that consciousness which we are filled with when our hearts are pure and we're giving that sound vibration from our tongues to Krishna. Then he will fill our minds with that glorious experience of transcendence that the soul is constantly looking for in pleasure. It is that longing for eternal pleasure that these souls, all the souls in the material world, they're looking for pleasure, only they don't know where to look. And that's why they're finding themselves frustrated. Everything they're being told will provide them happiness and pleasure, and every time they try, they still suffer. Pain and suffering is still there. Agony is still there. And uncertain then. If you're told by one person, do this and you get this result, and then you do it and you don't, it leaves in your mind a doubt, a question, which is what many people are finding on many spiritual paths. We can do the same thing with Krishna consciousness. We can convince ourselves that there is something other than that to be found. I've commented several times on a child being taught, without the parent knowing it, to yell and scream.
Oh, yeah.
Simply by rewarding it. And this child's getting worse and worse and worse now. It's not my place to tell the parent I don't have any children. I have never raised children, but I have studied psychology. And I do know that parents, in their heart of hearts, thinking themselves to be doing the best for the child, many times lead the child to perform the very activities they are trying to lead the child away from. See, we can do the same thing with our minds. We can convince the mind, as the soul has the ability to control the mind. We can use scripture to justify the belief that we can do it ourselves. We can create our own system. We can start our own religion. And for some, like Hridayananda Maharaj, he's found that in his life to be his purpose. And Krishna will empower him to the extent that he is surrendering to Krishna to fulfill that purpose. Whether that's Krishna's perfect desire for him or not. All of us are being rewarded in Krishna consciousness according to the consciousness we're developing towards Krishna. He may have love. It may be pure love that we can recognize. In wanting to reach out to souls who don't find themselves capable of following the regulative principles. But we can't change the philosophy and hope that by doing so it will make it easier for people. People have to find the means with the soul united with Krishna consciousness to be able to overcome these things. I don't know any other process. A lot of people are finding Christianity removes them from sinful life. I found that to be true. But there were sins I was still committing that I didn't know were sins. So without completeness of knowledge, this is what Krishna is giving with his consciousness, Krishna consciousness. He's giving us the ability to see everything in our life that is faltering, that is missing the mark. So, for example, the act of eating. Everyone in the world thinks of eating as a necessity, that of course God has provided all humankind with the necessities needed for them to continue their existence on this planet. However, he's given the means by which that is done, how to honor food. And without that understanding, by simply taking anything in this material world, then we become indebted. Indebted to the one whose world this is. Indebted with every bite. With those living entities that are in our same situation in the material world, giving their lives for our sake, then we become indebted. And we don't even realize it. Why? Because they don't think that the pear tree is a soul, is a living soul, or the peach tree, or that within the seed of the peach is a soul. And without that knowledge, which seems to a devotee to be basic teaching, your soul and every soul comes into the material world with the ability to take on forms of life. This is basic teaching of Vaishnava philosophy. But who in the material world even knows that? Who, taking part in any other spiritual path, is seeing the taking of foodstuffs as an act that causes us to become indebted? Who sees it that way? And in effect, let's say we don't look at it as sin. Just like going into a grocery store and purchasing something is not looked at as sin because we think we own it. We think we own it. We think it's for us and our pleasure. And it is that consciousness that will keep us from being able to become free from the indebtedness. And Krishna is doing all this, giving us a process to enable us to become free from indebtedness. But as long as we think it's all for our pleasure, we will continue the cycle of becoming indebted to the living entities we put ourselves in the control of. The material energy, the modes of material energy, which are a manifestation of karma. The material energy controlling the living entities that are trying to control the material energy do not know that they are being controlled. Because when they feel the desire, they think it is they themselves, the soul, that is doing that desire, but it is the hankering of the senses, the physical body, driving them, pushing them. No, you have to have this. You have to have that. The mind says, I have to have this thing to continue my existence here. So without the acknowledgement of where it's coming from, the indebtedness we have, we take these things to ourselves in a form of, everything is owed to me. The world owes me my existence. And so that is the consciousness that keeps us in the material world. And this is exactly what Krishna is giving us the means to become free from. It's like there are companies, there are people have gotten themselves, most people owning a home will be in debt almost till the day they die.
Oh, yeah. Especially if you've got a 30-year mortgage.
Yeah. But they think they own it. Mm-hmm. Even under those circumstances, by physical laws, the bank owns it, and they don't own it. So there has been, in the United States, so much indebtedness that now there are companies that are telling you that by going with their loan, they will free you from indebtedness. But then you become indebted to them. What is the benefit? Man, in his pursuit to find answers, using his own mind, causes more problems for himself than finding the solution. The perfect example of that is so-called pharmaceutical, so-called remedies. They cause more side effects that can cause you more damage to your body than the original problem you were trying to solve, taking the medicine to begin with. And that's mostly what's happening in the material world. Every solution the mind comes up with for the material problems creates more problems. And those problems that it creates are even more difficult to get out of than the problem initiated that it was supposed to solve. You have poverty. Poverty is looked at as a problem in the world. But poverty is not the problem. It is the consciousness of the people who are in the situation of poverty. And so we have bitterness. What does poverty cause? You know, a rich man, he may be looked at as someone that wants wealth in this world. But many wealthy people already have the wealth they want. And yet many poor men every day are constantly, their minds are nagging them to become wealthy, to gain wealth. So you can be in the most poverty-stricken situation, and by the consciousness you develop by that poverty-strickenness, you develop the consciousness of one who is going to be punished for only thinking of his own welfare and wanting to create a kingdom in this world without the benefit of anyone. This is false ego. Another expression of false ego. Usually, we feel pity for people born into degraded situations, but birth into a desert, birth into a cursed place where there is no knowledge of God, is coming from the developed consciousness of the soul that has been partaking of this material energy since time immemorial. Now we've gotten into a place somehow or another, and we would say by looking at our own lives that it is by our acknowledgement that there is a God that we have been brought into better circumstances to be able to fulfill a purpose that God has for our lives. Because with knowledge of God, God gives us the ability to know how to fulfill our purpose here. By inquiring also of those souls that we see as more advanced than we are, we take part in that acknowledgement by surrender, and that breaks the false ego. It is by surrender that, and it is a simple thing. Making a friend of someone who is more advanced than we are, and seeing that person as a source for more knowledge than what we have attained to, puts us automatically in a place submissive. It is this submissiveness that breaks the false ego. But it is in the world the idea that the controlling of everything. See, when we see a leader in ISKCON, we don't see a person wanting to control everybody. We see a person who has surrendered to their guru. And their guru is guru in that position because they have surrendered to their guru. And it goes all the way up the chain. So that same surrender mentality is the consciousness that leads the soul to the ability to perform its purpose here. Now, look at the life of the person they call Jesus Christ. He's not accredited with even having carried money in his own pocket, because when he was asked for taxes, the way he collected the money needed for his taxes was he told one of his disciples to go get a fish. The first fish he would catch would have a coin in its mouth and give that to the tax collector. So that was how much he felt himself connected to this physical world and indebted to the taxes. Because when you surrender to Krishna, you're no longer under the control, not only of the material energy, but even the laws of man. The laws of man are inferior to the laws of God. And so those laws that tell you in order to succeed in this world, you have to become powerful, you have to gain wealth, you have to command so many people, you have to prove yourself worthy in this world by accumulating all these things in this world. That proves that your consciousness is right. And all it proves is that you've got a bigger false ego than most other people have. And you are binding yourself by the things that bind the soul to this material energy. But for one like Christ, look at that, spent his whole life without requiring money. and performed miracles that are said to have provided people, thousands of people, food to eat from just a couple of loaves of bread and a couple of fishes without anybody putting forth any great amount of expense. So our whole lives in poverty, with everything provided that we need, also can be a testimony, a shining light on a hill. That the way the societies of the world are conducting themselves is not the only way for a human being to experience happiness, joy, pleasure, unlimitedly. One who knows that these things of the material world do not offer pleasure, but knows the source of pleasure, then can experience real happiness, real pleasure, real satisfaction, and be tasting in this mortal body because of the consciousness's ability to connect with the divine and the eternal, to experience the bliss of the eternal to some extent. Of course, because we are covered with the material body, we're going to get that in a limited way. But we're going to get it. If we're chanting and if we're performing the offerings necessary to be considered devotional service, you're going to get the eternal benefit. Believe it or not, my mother used to say, when I tell her things about the kingdom of God, she'd say, yeah, if you believe that. But now I can say, whether you believe it or not. Remember that old Ripley's, believe it or not. They would take from this world events that seem to be out of the ordinary to the extent that people might consider it impossible. And yet these events are going on every single day. Throughout the world, there are events taking place. We miss them if we're not in the spiritual energy. But if we have eyes to see them, even the most simple act in the world can be seen for the miraculous events that they are. It may not seem like a miraculous thing for a little tiny hole, practically microscopic, this hole we have in the eye, that enables all this light that we see to enter into these two little tiny spaces that gives us the ability to think we're seeing it all. An event takes place right in front of us, we think we've seen it all. But somebody else seeing from another perspective can see something that makes it a completely different event. Same thing with just eating food, or what to speak of hearing. This voice, this larynx we call it, vibrates and moves like this up and down. And it sends an airwave out of the mouth that hits your eardrum and makes you believe something may be true. Truth itself passes from one soul to another in this way, giving itself the realization of what it is. In effect, that's a miracle. Look at all those living entities in the ocean. What restriction there is for them to be able to communicate with each other. And yet even they teach their young. What a miracle that is. How can you see a bird without arms, yet they find a way to feed themselves.
Yeah.
And they build a house. And they raise their young. And they teach their young to perform their very same activities. All these things in nature, seemingly that we take for granted as normal daily activities, when they're analyzed by the analyzing mind that the soul develops with spiritual consciousness, it sees all around it events taken for granted as normal events, as supernatural events that would not be able to take place without the energy of God in every cell of the body. In every atom of this universe, there is an incarnation of Krishna, holding everything together, enabling everything to even have form. Otherwise, everything, as the Bible says too, everything that we see is made of things that we don't see. And so that in and of itself as well. Just like I was just reading, this explains that between here and the moon, there's a planet twice the size of the moon, Buloka. It's about 800 miles wide. No, is that what it is? No, that's not right. It's distance from the influence of the earth, something like 800 yojans. That would be 64,000 miles, something like that. But all these souls automatically, by their consciousness, they are brought to this place where the bodiless, the ghosts, the souls are brought to. It's just like the soul didn't have the choice, in effect, to come to this planet. It was forced here by its previous activities. But because it had the choice to engage in its previous activities, it did make the choice. We made the choice, and yet we didn't have the power to be able to make the choice. So everything is being governed outside of our control. But if we work with it, then we can see that everything is working for our good. If we work against it, then nothing will work out. I once had a friend, he told me, from the moment he woke up that morning, everything happened until he got to work and he went to put his pressure on the pencil and the pencil lead broke also. Had to sharpen the pencil. He said, no, I'm going back home. This day is not to be lived. Something happened wrong. Woke up. A spider was in his shoe or something. I don't know what it was. And everything that he took part in that morning, he recognized. Now, this person was a relatively religious person who I would share, relationships, friendships with people that I knew to be spiritually minded. But see, on the path, they don't know where all these things, because karma is happening from so many millions and millions and millions of lifetimes, what to speak of years, lifetimes accumulated that can be reacting to our present situation that is coming from an effect from 1,000 years ago. It can happen to people who are not freed from their reaction. This is why worship of Tulsi Maharani is so beneficial to the devotees, to wipe out these effects of previous karma. Otherwise, we think Krishna is somehow doing that to us. And this is what happens to Christians. They get on the path, they don't know anything about karma. Pretty soon, things are happening, they don't know how to explain it, and then they're blaming God.
Yeah.
And then the path of God looks too difficult also. And then they give up and think it's atheism is the way. There can't be a God then if God didn't answer my prayers. So, this path that we are on is very straight and narrow. And there's very few people that find this path. And to stay on the path is the thing. Just maintaining is in the mode of goodness. So maintaining, very important aspect of our lives, to maintain what we have and continue. By continuing in this absence of the false ego and the total surrender to Krishna. I don't want my way, Krishna. I see what my way has done in the past, and I don't want it anymore. I want your way instead. So we just keep with that in mind, because we know Krishna's way is superior to our own way. And then we don't need the mind to bother us. The mind will be our helper then. Finding ways that Krishna helps, and finding every way we speak to find that which glorifies Krishna and his works amongst mankind, specifically coming for the sake of mankind also to be freed and to find this total freedom from the effects of karma. Any comments, any questions?
Yeah, probably we spoke earlier about the belief that the earth is eternal.
Yeah.
In John, in the New Testament, he has a vision where he sees 3 levels of heaven. One is the glory of the earth, one is the glory of the moon, and the other is the glory of the sun. Mm-hmm. So there is some, speculation as to that, but the deal is that the earth is supposed to be restored to its original paradisical status, as it was in the Garden of Eden, before everything was all messed up. Yeah. So the Mormon belief is that non-believers and people who aren't religious will end up on the eternal earth, the glory of the earth. Mm-hmm. And then the ones that strive to be religious will gain the other 2 levels to the highest level.
Yeah. See, this reveals to us within Christianity the acknowledgement that people are attached to this world, very much attached to it. But there's not much recognition as to the difference that even were the earth to be changed into a heavenly planet, which I also agree probably will happen with this straightening. And see, we see with Lord Varaha wanting to protect the earth and putting himself in a position to protect the earth reveals as well that it is Krishna's purpose to benefit the earth and protect the earth. So I want to believe what I'm hearing from other paths, the Hopis specifically, about this realigning of the Earth's axis, that this is going to come about, because it all makes so much sense when you see that God's people, they want heaven. They're proclaiming God is going to make a new heaven and a new earth, and God is going to come back to the earth. Mm-hmm. So they want to go to heaven, but God's coming here.
Well, he's supposed to come back for the 10,000 years.
Yeah. So, if they got to heaven before he came here, they would miss out on his coming here. It's kind of an anomaly, so to speak. They're preaching like anything. But the Bible reveals to one who has eyes to see. The person they call Christ makes this statement many times when he's making a point about something. He says, if you have eyes to see. And what he's talking about is spiritual, to be able to see what's coming on the earth and to see in our own lives that can lead us to the eternal dwelling that we're all hoping to experience. And it's simply by keeping these red liquid principles. We offer all our food to Krishna. We chant 16 rounds a day. We don't take intoxicants that affect the body and make us sick anyways. We don't have illicit engagement with other souls to mess them up with our karma. And we don't eat meat, fish, or eggs. And just by keeping these regulative principles, we free ourselves from what would otherwise be medical maladies. With involving our physical bodies with these 4 engagements, we force ourselves into that sickness and illness that these engagements cause. You get cirrhosis of the liver from drinking alcohol. People got great big noses. You can see this affecting their livers. So what to speak? Illicit sexual activities affects this person psychologically, creates disturbances in people's minds, so many things. Then what to speak? Slaughtering of an animal that has family, that is born in the mode of goodness. These cows, everything that comes out of their body is good for human beings, and yet to kill them and to proclaim them as meat acceptable. That's just ignorance, controlled by the modes of ignorance. Yeah.
So I had a friend that worked in Texas at a slaughterhouse. 10,000 cows a day. A day.
I
Just
saw
one day, 10,000 cows.
I saw what they call a feedlot, where they keep these cows for the last 6 months, 90 days, 90 days, 3 months.
Fatten them up.
To fatten them up, and they feed them terrible stuff. Cotton with the seeds, which they don't normally eat. They recycle their waste, saying it doesn't get fully digested the first time around, which is crazy nonsense. These animals get sick. And by cooping these animals up as well in a barn, I saw they get a disease. Their eyes pop out of their head.
Yeah.
It is crazy. And they're forced to live like this.
My other friend had 4 chicken houses, poultry houses, 10,000 chickens in each house. So they change their food a couple of times within the 6 weeks that they're growing, and they're feeding them arsenic in their food because it's a growth stimulator. So at the end of that, they bring in a detox food and flush the chickens.
Yeah.
So my friend did this for like 15 years. His family did this as a business. The trucks with the detox food would either be late or not show at all. So there's 40,000 chickens going out with arsenic in their system every 6 weeks. And there are literally hundreds of chicken houses in that part of Alabama. Hundreds of chicken houses.
And the old colonel is going to be one of those chickens for a long time. Yeah.
Colonel Sanders, you have...
He's going to be doing a lot of clucking.
Well, yeah, and then my other friend, a friend in the cattle industry, he was the one who put them out with the electric rod.
My cousin worked on a chicken farm, and he was cutting their heads off.
Yeah.
He had dreams. After a while, he had nightmares every single night.
Wow.
He had to quit the job. When he reasoned that it was coming from that, finally reasoned with it. And that's what it causes, because they are conscious living entities, and they suffer the pain.
Cows have best friends.
Yeah.
They have friends.
Yeah. Elephants.
Yeah.
Elephants will remember something you did to them 10 years ago and wait till they get to the edge of the cliff.
And they
to
have
push
the
you
ability
off.
they have the ability to tell their babies where their ancestors are buried without even having ever been there.
Wow. Yeah.
They know where their ancestors are buried.
Yeah.
And they visit.
If we look at brain size, then...
Look at the whale. How many hundreds of years does the whale live?
Exactly. And they communicate.
Yeah.
And that sound goes for miles.
Oh, yeah. Water is the best transmitter of sound.
Yeah. So they are very adept, some of these creatures, and they are carrying that adeptness of their abilities from the soul proper. It's just being put in from one body to another. Anything else? We're running late.
Thank you so much,
All
brother.
glory to your service, brother. Shrimadbhagavatam, ki jai, Srila Prabhupada, ki jai. Gotta find that in the 5th canto now.
Well, hopefully my wife will keep working.